Tank Thursday. Yay, it's Think Tank Thursday. Come on in, everybody. Whoever is here, come join us. We have an interesting session for you today. Well, I hope you find it interesting. I find the topic absolutely interesting because I struggled for years to figure out what is the important stuff to get done, and then how do I create the time to do it, and how do I put a process around that. And I'm going to share all those findings with you today, tonight, this evening, this morning, depending where you are in the world. So you're all very welcome. Come on in. If you have any questions at any stage, just go ahead and ask them in the chat rather than the Q&A if you use the chat, and I will refer to them every now and again. So I've opened my chat now just to make sure you guys that when you have your chat on, just put it on all panelists and attendees so we can see the chat, we can all see it, we can all share, we can all learn from each other. All very important things to do. Okay, I suppose we're going to, as usual, being an Irishman who's kissed a brownie stone too many times, I will probably talk too long. So let's just get straight into the content and let's just share my screen. Okay, so what we're going to discuss today is I'm going to share with you. You're actually going to see a deep dive into my heart, into my past, and just what the mistakes I've made in business throughout the years, and by gosh, I've made them all. If there's a mistake to be made in business, you're here in front of the right man, because I've made every single one of them. So hopefully, if nothing else, I can help you to see what those issues are, learn something from them. You've probably made some of them yourself, and I'm sure there's some of them that you haven't made yet, and hopefully I can help you not make them at all. Hello, Marnie. It's great to see you again. We'll have to get you back in the think tank one of these days. We miss you. It's a while since we've had you on the think tank, but we'll organize that. Don't you worry. Well, thank you for joining us. Okay, so let's deep dive into this subject then. So NB, the important stuff. What is it? And because we're all people that are busy bees, aren't we? We have our business to do, and we've a whole lot of stuff to get done, and we're busy bees, and yet we hear all this education about you need to be trying this and you need to be doing that, and then we see a new shiny thing and we say, oh, I have to rush off and do that, and then we have to look after our clients, because that's the key thing first, isn't it? But quite often then we end up like headless chickens, don't we? We're not just busy bees, we're headless chickens. If you've ever felt like that, I have on many an occasion, a headless chicken run around the place. And at the end of the day, I say, what did I actually do today? And I go, do you know what? I can't actually remember if I did anything useful at all today. I was just running around like a headless chicken, not sure what I was doing, flustering around the place. We all do it, don't we? But a very wise man about 25 years ago said to me, Ronan, you have to think about tasks and things you want to do in your business. And indeed, this translates to your home life too. You've got to decide what's urgent rather than important. And I went, really? What do you mean by that? So we sat down and we had a conversation over a cup of coffee. And he said, well, the urgent things are the things that jump out at you that you feel you have to do. And with today, with technology, I don't know if you're like me, but my phone, every time an email comes in, it bings. Every time a messenger comes in, it bings. Every time there's a notification on Facebook, it bings. And quite often you have to train yourself, to turn those things off, because they spark us, and we have that fear of missing out, don't we? That FOMO. That, oh, maybe something important's trying to get me, and we think then, and we get caught up in those urgent things rather than the stuff that's important. Because a lot of the important stuff takes time, it takes focus, it requires us to have some quiet and just to be able to do it properly. But often the urgent thing takes over. And I think that's true of us all. I don't know anybody, I don't think I've ever met anybody who said to me, no, Ronan, that's not true. I'm so disciplined. I'm able to prioritize the important over the urgent so many times. So on my journey, and this year is 31 years in business, on my journey through that, I've sort of discovered, that I've got to have a system around what I do. If I don't put a system around what I do, well, then I fall off. And even with that system, I fall off. But at least I have a reference point when I have a system. I have a reference point as to what I can get back to and get back up on the horse when I fall off. So what I'm going to share with you tonight is I'm going to share some of those stories. I'm going to share some of the tools I use. Some of them you'll say, that's the mad lunatic from Ireland again. And some of them you'll say, I can use that. And I'll share those with you. Okay. So let's try and see if we can not be headless chickens, not be busy bees all the time, and take some time out to do what's important. So my system for doing this is the 5Q test, I call it. So it's my way of identifying and classifying what I do as to what's important and what's urgent. And for me, operations is the urgent stuff, because that's where stuff goes wrong. Yeah, in our business, we're a small business, 30 people, but a machine goes down, or an irate customer makes contact, doesn't happen very often, but makes contact with client happiness and they need my input, or there's a campaign to be got out and we're falling behind, or somebody decides that they're leaving the business. Doesn't happen very often, but you know what I'm saying, the urgent stuff. The phone rings, your email goes, you have a notification on Facebook, whatever that is the urgent stuff. And quite often that's operational stuff. Yeah, it's the best way to describe it is it's working in your business rather than on your business. While the important stuff as a business owner, which is creating time for your strategic planning and looking at your goals, measuring how you're achieving with your business plan, understanding your vision, understanding you as the business owner, and why are you in this business? All that strategic stuff takes time, it takes patience, it takes focus, and it takes quiet for most of us to be able to do that. And often we sacrifice the strategic for the urgent. We sacrifice the important for the urgent. So again, I'm going to share some tools with you tonight and the rest of my 5Q tests that will help you identify, even if you are consciously aware of this, it will help you then to identify when you're in urgent mode and when you're in important mode. Okay. So let's start with a story. And this is a very famous quote from an unknown author, but this picture was taken by Dave and Whitney Scott in 2018 when they were at our last Future Photography event. And our Future Photography event we hold every 2 years approximately. We're supposed to hold it this year in May, but unfortunately with COVID, we had to postpone it. We haven't cancelled it, we've postponed it. We haven't yet set a new date for it, but hopefully it's going to be, I doubt it's going to be next year because we're going to have to wait till there's a vaccine. So it'll probably be 2022. But at our Future Photography event, we spent 3 days, together. There's about 30 of us. We socialize a lot. We have great fun. We've great banter. We've great crack. And we talk a lot about the industry, but we do a lot of serious work as well. And one of the things we do in the Future Photography event is we deep dive into our industry and we try and imagine where is it going and predict where it's going. And we look at technology trends and we look at marketing trends and the different marketing generations and what they're doing and what they desire and how that would impact on the business model of our businesses and all that sort of thing. But part of it is most people who come to us from America, they stay on for a couple of days and they tour around our country. And there's a county in Ireland that my father's from, our family are from, called Kerry. And Kerry is called the kingdom, but it's called the kingdom because when God created Ireland, she had created 31 counties. And God had a look and said, it's not quite right yet, and made Kerry as the last county. And that's why it's called the kingdom. So this is a picture that David and Whitney took up the mountains in Kerry. So Kerry is there's some biggish towns and there's a lot of beautiful countryside. But this picture captures for me the story of how you can get lost in your business. So Mary and Jake were over from America once, and they were in the beautiful kingdom, and they fell in love like most people do with Kerry and Ireland when they're visiting there. And they were due to fly home from Dublin that evening. But they had a look at each other that morning and they said, look, we absolutely love this county. We love this country. We have a bit of time. Why don't we go up and drive up the Connor Pass? Because we didn't get to see that. We saw the other pass, we didn't see the Connor Pass. So the Connor Pass is a windy road and it brings you up into the mountains. And the road, there's in parts of it, there's grass down the middle of it, of the road, and you barely get two cars by each other. But what happens also is there's no Wi-Fi up there. You'll probably lose your phone connection while you're up on the Connor Pass. But what can happen quite often is the mist will come in and the fog will come in, like in this picture with David and Whitney. So they're up there anyway. Jake and Mary are up there and they realize that the mist is coming in and it's a real thin road and they're having struggle following the road. And then they get a puncture and they don't know where they are and they're lost, and they look at their watch and they say it's a 3.5 hour drive back to Dublin and we have to check in 5 hours time. So panic starts, and they're married 35 years. But World War III starts to break out because Mary turns to Jake and says, Jake, you should have planned this out. The phones aren't working. What are we going to do? We're lost. Look at the mist. We could fall over the edge. We could drive over the edge. So they start anyway to sort of just take a little step because they're trying to find somewhere that they could pull in to change the tire. You see the puncture. And then they see a sheep farmer about 50 yards ahead of them wearing a cap like mine. And they go, oh, we're saved. This man will be able to help us. He'll help us change our tire and put us on the right road. So they creep up anyway in the car and they wind down the window and they say, excuse me, sir. We have to try and get our tire changed and we need to get to Dublin because we're due to fly home tonight. Can you tell us the best way to go to get the tire changed and get back to Dublin? So he turns to them and in Kerry, they sort of sing their accent. Yeah, they sing a little bit when they're talking. So he turns to them and he goes, well, if I were you, I wouldn't be starting from here. So the reason for that story is that quite often in business, and it's happened to me in the past, that we end up in a place where we don't want to be. And the reason generally why we do is we don't have a plan. So one of the keys to making sure that we get the important stuff done is to have some sort of plan. But the problem with most plans is business plans, they're this thick, yeah? They're big, thick books like this one here. This is not a plan. This is my last master's, but it's a big, thick book, yeah? So it's useless to anybody on an activity basis. But we have to do it sometimes if we're raising money for our business or the bank want a business plan and all that stuff. We've all been there, yeah? But it's really no good outside of that. And generally when we built the business plan and we've printed it out and we've presented it, it's out of date, right? Like imagine preparing a big business plan this year and then COVID hit. Like how can you plan for that stuff? How can you actually take something that you built in a plan that deep and say, right, so how am I going to deal now? I have to make some decisions quickly. What am I going to do and how am I going to do it? Because that's not just important decisions to be made, but they're also urgent. They're actually both, aren't they? Because I have to make some decisions. So for me, the best system I've ever seen is a concept that I read in Traction called the 2-page business success plan. And I looked at that and I modified it and I changed it and I put my own spin on it. And I tried to make it into something that's suitable for us as photographers, that it connects with everything we do. So this is the 2-page business success plan. So this is my latest one. So what I would say to you is, it's really important to try and get that strategic plan onto 2 pages. And I break my strategic plan now into two parts. So there's what we call the Achieve Your Dreams page or the Vision page. And I've three sections to this. I have my three circles of you, where we look at your BHAGs, your big, hairy, audacious goals. Where do you want to bring your business in the next 10 years? And I have questions in here now to prompt as to how to come to the answers to these. The next step then in it is understanding your core values. So that's the second circle. So what are your core values? Because that's really important. A lot of people say to me, I'm going to rebrand, Ron, I'm going to get a new logo. Yeah, that's not your brand. Your logo is just an icon for your brand. Your brand comes from the core values that you have. So it's really important to understand what those core values are and those core values, because they will help you to understand what's urgent and what's important. And then the bit that I love most is understanding your why. And we hear this all the time, yeah. And the great leader in this area is Simon Sinek. You know, what is your why? Why do you exist? Why are you a photographer? And when you understand that, you understand it not only because we're micro businesses, you understand it for yourself, and you understand business. And because we're micro businesses, they're very connected. Yeah, they're like this because we are pretty much our business, our micro businesses, aren't we? You know, we're key in there. Somebody's asked me a question in the question. Let me just see if I can call it up. For some reason, it's not letting me call it up. If you can put it in the chat, I have the chat open. So if you've put it in the Q&A, if you just click on the chat button and put it in there, I'll try and get to that for you. The next step then is what I call of the two-page vision page, is what is your 3 pillars, central marketing pillars. So why is that important? Well, it's important because if you're writing a blog or an email, or you're designing an online campaign, or you're doing anything, it's really important to have something to reference to make sure what you're doing is correct. And I break that down into 3 steps. The 3 steps that I put in there is, and don't worry if you can't read this, because I'm going to give you a copy of this. It's just for visual representation. Okay. So the first step here then is your brand positioning statement. So this is something by Nick Westergaard. I just added a little bit to it, as I tend to take stuff that other people do and try and improve upon them a little bit. But Nick Westergaard came up with the idea of, as a small company, it's really good to imagine your brand as a big brand you admire. So for us in our business, it's Apple. Yeah. So our positioning statement is, we are the Apple of the photo presentation and training business. That's what we are. That's what we've positioned ourselves. And then it asks you, then I've added to it, is what value pyramid are you? Because there's 3 value pyramids. Yeah. You can compete on price, quality, or convenience. So a good example to explain that is burgers. So let's say I want to make burger and chips for the family. Yeah. So if price is the most important thing to me, I'm going to go to Tesco or Walmart's, and I'm going to buy all the ingredients. So I'm going to buy my mince and my bit of flour and my onion and my seasoning for the burgers, and I'm going to buy my potatoes and I'm going to cut them and chip them. And that's the cheapest way to feed my family, family of 6, burgers and chips. Yeah. So if I am shopping on price and that's my driver, that's who I'm going to go to. If I want something convenient, so if I'm going to buy on convenience, I want something really, really quick, really, really easy, and I want burger and chips for the family, because McDonald's is really, really convenient. So some people think McDonald's competes on price. They don't. They compete on convenience. Because it's really easy for me to pop into McDonald's, pop up in the car, wind down the window, place my order, go to the next window, pay, collect it, feeding the family of 6. No cleanup afterwards, because all the cartons and all can go into the bin. Convenience. Yeah. And then if I want quality, I would probably go to Gourmet Burger, where I can build my own burger. You know, I can choose all the different toppings. I can mix and match. You know, the burgers are steak burgers, beautifully. I've got waiter service. You know, it's a different experience. Yeah. So that's quality. So it's important to understand that too and put in in that, that's the first pillar. The second pillar then is what I call your client gold avatar. So client gold for us is ideal client. Yes, your client gold avatar is, what do they look like? And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to deep dive into this. So this is going to be a two-part program. So it's today and it's next Tuesday. So next Tuesday, I'm going to deep dive this into much more detail. And then the final bit then is, what's your elevator pitch? So what's your client gold elevator pitch? So if I met you and I say, what do? You're not going to tell me I'm a wedding photographer, I'm a high school senior photographer. You're going to tell me the problem you solve, how do you solve it, and what's the transformation for your client? And that's your elevator pitch. And they're the three central things. And once you figure that out, it's really easy to work on what's important in your business. And this work, guys, is some of the most important work you can do. And the final piece then is understanding your profit first financials, understanding your marketing and sales ratio, and then the other yearly goals that you have. And that sits then, I print that out and I have that above my desk. So it sits in front of my desk every single day. And if I'm going to do anything, it's my reference point for where I am. Then the next sheet is what I call the do it or the action page. So this is the get stuff done using the 6D matrix. And we'll get into the 6D matrix now in a couple of minutes, but this is just a summary of the 3 key things I'm going to do in the next 12 weeks. And you'll see here, I don't call it a quarter, I call it a 12-week year. Again, I didn't invent that. I'd love to have been the person to invent it. But actually, Whitney and David Scott gave me this as a present at Imaging this year. It's a great book by Brian Morgan and Michael Lennington called the 12-week year. And the 12-week year principle is, as humans, we're programmed, to often put stuff off because we get to it eventually and we get it done. And we're conditioned to decompart. That's a wrong word. Let's break it down, Ron. I can't even say it. I shouldn't be using big words. Ron, use smaller words. Our life, we put into steps of a year, and a year is a key measure, isn't it? But what happens then is, because the year is so long and it's 12 months long, often we put off stuff. Because of the urgent stuff, we put off the important stuff and we say we'll get it done eventually. And quite often we do get it done, but it's a rush at the end of the year to make it happen. Yeah. So if you're like me, you've been there. So the idea and the psychology of the 12-week year is you regard each quarter, each 12 weeks as a full year. And what I encourage you to do is pick just 3 key important things that you're going to get done. 3 key goals, big goals, that you want to get done in the next 12 weeks. And I encourage you to have one of those as a marketing goal. I encourage you to have one of those as a financial operational goal, and then whatever other goal you want to take from your yearly goal targets. And then this then gives me a focus of the 3 important things I need to get done every 12 weeks. Because if this is a list of 10 things, guess what? It never gets done, does it? The list just gets longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. But by focusing on the 3 key things I want to get done in the next 12-week year, then I have a far greater chance of getting it done. And I'm making myself accountable for the important stuff. And when this is sitting over the desk in front of my desk, it's a constant reminder, Ronan, I know there's all that urgent stuff, but let's get some of the important stuff done. Yeah. So I hope that makes some sense. Okay, how are we doing time-wise? Hopefully, because I do lose track of the time. We're grand. Okay, we'll keep on going. So this 2-page business success plan, I'll post the link into the group afterwards and you can go and download it for yourself. Okay, so don't worry, I'll give you all this stuff. But next week, we'll deep dive into actually producing this. Yeah, okay. So this is something that I actually did invent myself, which is the 3D circles of continuous business success. So one of the things that, I just want to see what happens when I do that. It does, okay. So one of the things, I'm just going to bring all those up so it's up. Okay, so one of the things that I thought about for quite some time was this business planning process. How can I make it simpler for me? And because we've done ways to go, done a whole lot of programs, How can I explain the process in a simpler way that if I understand it, then hopefully others can understand it too? Because, when somebody hears the word business plan, I don't know if you're like me, but I go, oh no, do I really have to do one of them? So this is the process that I designed that I felt helps with that. So the first step in anything is to discover. So you got to discover things like, who's your ideal client goal avatar? Discover what's your why. Discover what are your long-term goals, your BHAGs. Where do you want to bring your business? Some people want to, I've met really successful business owners that, no, I only want to work just myself. My wife is just the two of us, and we are not having any employees. And then I've other people who say, no, I want to have a massive business turning over, tens of millions with thousands of employees. And that's what I want to do. But it's important to discover those sort of things as to what you want to do. And once you go about discovering them, to discover them, you've got to do a whole lot of research. So you've got to research things, you've got to spend time digging in and understanding yourself, and to understand your why, understanding who your ideal client goal avatar is, understanding all those things. It takes time to research it. And after you've done the research, then you finally make some decisions. So you decide what you want to do. And only then are you ready to plan. And your plan is essential to get it done, to get the important stuff done. To get it, to do it. And even though the discovery stage, we're thinking about 10 years time and far out in our business, to really help position that, I encourage people to quantify things. If you quantify it, it goes back to an old rule. And I've proven this over and over again for myself. I'll share some in a few minutes with you just to show that. But if you quantify it into a number, then you can measure it. And you've heard the saying, it's not my saying, what gets measured gets done. I'm sure you've heard that a million times. So by being able to quantify stuff, even for your long-term vision as well as your short-term, increases your chance of business success. Because your business success comes down to your ability as a business owner to get more of the important stuff done rather than the urgent stuff. That one key thing will make a difference to how successful your business is. So this, I hope, helps just to frame sort of the process as to how you can go about creating your 2-page business success plan that we did a bit earlier. But it's all down to this. You will go through this story, these steps: discovery through research, making some decisions based on the research, creating a plan, doing it. You'll have quantified it. And this is an iterative process, i.e. you will go, oh, that's why there's circles. This is a continuous process you will go through. Because you will find out something. You will find out that, who you thought was your ideal client is not, and you identify your ideal client goal is something different. What you thought was ideal client goal was pyrite or fool's gold. So you need to go again. Or your business will evolve, or it'll change, or whatever. So this is a process that you will go through all the time. Okay. So another way to be able to identify the important from the urgent is to avoid what I call the green-eyed monster. So what's the green-eyed monster? Well, the green-eyed monster is an opportunity that appears out of nowhere, looks really, really cool, something you need to do and go after. But when you get in there, you realize that it's not ideal client goals. You realize that your business is not built to support it, that you end up running like a headless chicken, trying to deliver for the green-eyed monster. And what you thought was golden is actually a green-eyed, it's a monster. And you get into trouble. So let me tell you a little story about us in this scenario. So this has happened to me numerous times over the years. So about 8 years ago, 8, 9 years ago, we developed our 3XM gallery service. and we were bringing it to market, and it was positioned together with some product that we were doing, and we came up with an idea to merge two concepts together. And we were having some success, but we weren't focused enough to get it done. And then a green-eyed monster appeared, and the green-eyed monster was one of the really big companies in our industry. I can't mention who it is, but they approached us and said, "Look, we know we need to have a solution for this area. Will you develop us a white label?" And it is brilliant. Imagine that company, that massive company, wants to do business with us. And I spent a lot of time negotiating, researching, trying to find a solution for that big company, thinking it was a big opportunity. And as a result, where we were focused on, that stuff didn't get done. And to cut a long story short, it ended up a green-eyed monster. When we got into the specifics and what they wanted, it just wasn't right for us. We were going to be gobbled up and eaten alive. So that's an example of a green-eyed monster. That was my green-eyed monster. And I'm sure you will see this, you will know this, where, it's the idea too of, far away hills, in our look across the hills, and there's a hill and the grass looks greener. But when you get there, it's not greener. Yeah, the grass I was in was greener. So how can we avoid, and how can we put a system around avoiding green-eyed monsters? And for me, it comes down to just this one thing: knowing who your ideal client goal avatar is. What do they look like? What marketing generation are they from? Where do they hang out offline? What social media mountains do they use? So are they on Facebook or Twitter or whatever? Where do they live? And any other thing you can find out about your ideal client. And we'll deep dive into this next Tuesday too, to try and figure out some tools that are around this. And I have a whole lot of tools to help with this and to help you figure out what that is. Okay, let's move on. What's next? Ho, yes. Walking across the street, watching my phone. Has this ever happened to any of you? Bang. Bang. I crash into a pole. The phone goes everywhere. I end up with a bloody nose because I wasn't paying attention to what I should be doing. Yeah. And that's another key thing that's required. So this is a tool that I've designed to help with that. And the tool can evolve. Oh, sorry. And I'm going to share some stuff with you. So sorry now for sharing my weight with you. But this tool is my 6D fast track matrix. And this tool I designed to, so I have my 2-page business plan, and then the core desires, which are goals within my that I want to get done in the 12-week, will break down into subtasks I need to do. So this is a subtask. So this was one I designed. I was going to call it something completely different. And then I realized, no, Ronan, don't be using bad language. In Ireland, we use that word all the time, and it can be a friendly word. But I know in other countries it's not the case. So I changed it to this. From getting more important done to 60 fast track success system. Much more corporate-y, I know. I prefer this one myself, but sure, it can't be done. But anyway, the principle here is that there's 6 steps to getting something done. So very like the 3D matrix we talked about, but there's just some extra steps in there. So the first one is the desire stage, and desire is like, what's your goal? A desire is a goal. They're the same thing, yeah. What do you desire to achieve? The second step then is discover. So discover, what do we think is the best way? Because we all have gut feeling, yeah. So when we want to achieve something, we'll have a gut feeling as to how we think that's the best way to do it. But if we just go ahead with that gut feeling, often we can make the wrong decision. So that's why I introduced the third step, which is the decision piece. So just reconfirm that what you discovered you're going to do is the way to do it. And why have you now discovered? Why have you now been able to make the decision that that discovery is correct? So I'm just getting you to rethink your gut feeling, which is your discovery, that this is the right way to go. And then the next step in the process is to physically go and do it. Just go and do it. You know, a lot of people learn a whole lot of stuff, and they don't do it. Like, I don't know how many people that have done my Ways to Go program and have started and not finished it and just don't finish it. They just don't do it. You know, life gets in the way. I know life is, but it's more than that. It's, you know, the urgent stuff takes over rather than the important stuff. So I encourage you to try and map out some time every single week. That's how I do it. I map out a few hours every single week that I'm not going to do any urgent stuff. I'm just going to do the important stuff. And when I'm doing important stuff, so for example, I'm not directly facing with clients on a day-to-day basis. I'm lucky. I have a client happiness team. We look after that in our business. So I only check my email 3 times a day. I check it first thing in the morning, I check it at lunchtime, and I check it in the evening. Sometimes I don't even get to check it in the evening. Yeah. And people who in my business who need to get me really, really urgently, they know how to get me. You know, they can get me on Messenger or text message or phone me. Yeah. But if you need me urgently, don't send me an email. Sometimes I actually go a couple of days without even reading my email. Yeah. And that's how I do it. So that's one of the ways I do it. So this is the first step. So I set my goal, my desires to what I want to achieve. So this is one I set for my weight. So I've been on a new health kick since January because I've tried this in the past. I'm 51 years of age this year, and I've always failed. And I said, right, I'm going to use what I use in business. I'm going to use it personally now. And I set out a target for myself, and I lost in the first 4 weeks or thereabout, or 4 months. I mean, I lost about 23 pounds. So my target was to lose £1 a week, 50 pounds at the end of the year. And then I derailed a bit. I didn't put on weight, but I wasn't losing it. And I got a little bit lazy and I wasn't following through in the system. And I went, right, so a couple of weeks ago, I said, right, what I'm going to do is I went on vacation too and put on a few pounds. So I'm going to get down to 15 stone, 7 pounds. So 15 stone, there's 14 pounds in a stone for people who don't use stones. And I'm going to get down to that from 16 stone 4. So I have to lose 7 and 4 is 11 pounds by the end of September. So that's my goal and my desire. Yeah. So my discovery step then is, so how am I going to make this happen? How do I think I'm going to make this happen? So I was 3 things I'm going to do. I'm going to keep my calorie consumption below 2,500 calories per day. I'm going to burn 3,500 calories a day by making sure I do 7K a day. And I'm not going to drink alcohol Monday to Thursday. I love my wine, but I'm just not going to drink alcohol Monday to Thursday. So that's how I felt I could achieve it. Luckily enough, I know that's the thing to do because I'd done that before. So for the first 4 months of the year, that's what I did. So I said, right, I'm going to follow 1 to 3 above because it worked, because I know now that it worked before. Yeah. And then I'm going to start it. So I'm going to start walking. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to measure it in my Fitbit. I'm going to measure everything in my Fitbit, from my walking to my water to my alcohol consumption and my calorie counting. Yeah. So this is something that I'm currently at. So I'm not at the final stage where I've delivered the results. Yeah. So at the end of, by this date, the end of September, I'll have a look to see what have I actually delivered. And then the final stage then is I will have a look at what my goal was, what I desired, what I delivered, and dissect it. So what one thing will I change? Just one thing, because you have to have a scientific approach to something. Otherwise, you don't know what works. So what one thing do I need to change if I'm off target before I go again? Because I'll have to December 18th to get this done. Yeah. So when I revisit this at the end of September, I'll set a target for the next 6 weeks to get it done. And then I'll have another 6 weeks before Christmas. Yeah. To try and get to, I can't remember the last time I was 15 stone. I can't remember. So it'll be a big celebration when I get there. But the principle of this is that when you see this, yeah, this system can be applied to anything. So for our Business Success Academy members, I turned this then into something for them to plan their marketing. So this overall system, this 60 system, can be applied to anything. So this is it, just a few things changed just for developing out a marketing campaign. Yeah. So no matter what it is, the principles of the 60 apply to anything. Okay. The fifth test then of what's important test is what you're doing, does it align to your why and your greater purpose? Now, some of you may be already aware and you know what your why is and you know what your purpose is, but the thought leader in this area is Simon Sinek. So if you haven't seen Simon Sinek yet, at the end of this presentation, Google Simon Sinek and TED Talks. And it's a no talk, it's 2009 when he did it, but he explains this is his concept of the golden circle. And what he explains is that most companies know what they do. So if I met you in the street and I say, what do? You will tell me what you do. You say, let's say you're a newborn photographer. You say, I'm a newborn photographer. That's what I do. If I asked you, how do you do it? You'd be able to say to me, well, how I do it is I have a studio. It's custom built to take photographs of newborn babies before they're 14 days old, because then they change and their features change forever. So we want to capture them in those first 14 days. I have it at a particular temperature, 24 degrees Celsius. I know what that is in Fahrenheit, but 24 degrees Celsius, because that's when the baby is most comfortable in heat and will sleep, so we can get these beautiful images of the baby. So you come along to the studio, you have a nice rest, mum, while I take care of the baby with my assistant, and we capture all these beautiful photographs. And then you come back into the studio a couple of weeks later, and we do a slideshow to music, and I present the images, and that's your design consultation, where we pick the images that we're going to turn into wall art for you and put in an album or a 3XM folio box, hopefully, or whatever that might be. And that's how we do it. Yeah. So everyone knows what they do and how they do it, but very few people know why they do it. And the great businesses know why they do something. And he gives a great example of, why the Wright brothers, despite not having all the resources that the state, I can't even remember the guy's name now, that was competing with the Wright brothers, but the Wright brothers made it despite having none of the resources, but everyone involved in the process knew why they were doing it. And he explains why Apple know their why and they communicate with their why first always. So the great businesses communicate with their why. But there's also the purpose of us as business owners, our own purpose as to, why are you a photographer? Why are you a photographer? So I say that a lot to photographers and say, so tell me why you're a photographer. And I'd say about 1 out of 10 are able to tell me their true why as to why they are. But once you discover your why, it will change your life. You will feel a pressure coming off your shoulders. It will give you your reason as to why you get out of bed every day, and it will give you a reason to prioritize what's important over what's urgent. But let me just share a story, because I discovered my why, and it's interesting. Like, I only discovered my why when it's only 2 years ago, I think it is, or 2.5 years ago, because I didn't know anything about this, and nobody had ever shown me or told me about it, or I'd never read anything on it. And then I can't even remember how I came about it, but I started to look, and then when you buy a new car, yeah, and you buy your new car, let's just call it a Ford, yeah, because I'm not really into cars, so I'll muck it up. So I buy a new Ford car, and I buy a red Ford car, yeah, that's my new car, and I'm driving down the road. And then you see another red car, and then you see another red car, all red Fords that you never saw before. Because now that you own one, you're aware of it. If that's happened to you, I'm sure it has. It's happened to me so many things with things I bought. And the same thing happened with this. Once I discovered it, I went, and the process of it, I saw it everywhere. I saw everyone talking about it. Some people use the word, why, and some people use your purpose. What is your purpose? So for those of you who haven't gone through that process, it's really, really an interesting process, and it'll change your life when you discover it. Because I discovered that I'd wasted probably 25 years of my business life thinking what I wanted was not actually what I wanted. And I made a whole load of mistakes along the way. And when I actually discovered my why, it then made sense to me. It really made sense to me. And I want to tell you a story around that as to how I discovered my why. So I'm going to get a bit personal now. But this is one of my daughters, Freya. Freya's 23 this month. And Freya, this picture was taken by a really good friend of mine, Kevin Jordan, for those of you who know Kevin. Kevin, if you're watching, hello. And Kevin did a pivot of his business during COVID, and he started doing virtual portraits. And this is a virtual portrait Kevin did. He did one of me too. It's my profile picture on my Facebook page. And I helped Kevin. I'm in XXV with Kevin among that really talented XXV group. I don't know why they invited me in, but they did. And I'm deeply honored to be a member there. But Kevin, I helped Kevin with some of his marketing when he was getting his new business up and running. And as a result, then he took some pictures. He took this one of Freya. But Freya helped me discover my true why. And Freya is, as I said, is 23 this month. But when she was a teenager, when she was 13, 14, she went through a really hard time. It was a really, really hard time. And in fact, it was so hard that we didn't know whether she was going to be with us. It was a really, really difficult time. And I'd personally gone through a difficult time a little bit closer to that. So I blame myself in many ways because I had a business failure in 2009. So a lithographic print business that went bust with 50 people in it. So as I said, I've made every mistake. And Freya, you know, I was focused not on what I probably should have been focused on saving the business and all that, and thought that that was the most important thing when it wasn't. And that was the urgent stuff, but it wasn't the important stuff. And one of the things that I noticed was, in hindsight, was, you know, what could I have done differently? Because I'm one of these people who always ask, so when something happens, why did it happen? Can I connect the dots? And could it have been changed? Or, you know, this is happening over here, that's happening there. You know, where's there a connection? And I love research, and I love knowledge, and I love learning. I believe in lifelong learning. And Freya, you know, she is such a beautiful woman now, and she's got a boyfriend, and everything's great. Everything's great. So it worked out really, really great. But at that time, we thought this is going to be really, really bad and could end up where none of us wanted to end up. But what it did was, it caused me to discover my why. So let me just explain our business why. So and then I'll explain my why and how they connect, and hopefully this will help you with this too. So when I discovered my why, I discovered my why was built around the principle of helping photographers to create successful businesses so that more photographs are taken. And that's the most important thing I can do. So you're saying, why? How is that your why? Or why is that relevant? Well, when I researched it, I discovered a couple of things. And the first thing I discovered, and don't worry if you can't read this, you know, it doesn't matter. Don't be reading that. Just listen to me. So, because this is a copy of something I just screenshotted, an information sheet I have on this area. So one of the things I discovered was that in biology is based that a simple smile like this releases endorphins into your body. And when those endorphins get released into the human body, it reduces stress. And when a population is less stressed, they are healthier in body. They're healthier physically. And I started thinking about that, and I was saying, wow. So if you think of the reaction of most of your clients when they view the work that you do as a professional photographer, it invokes a smile more often than not. Am I right? I think I am, if you think about that. So therefore, the work that you do as a photographer creates a healthier society and body. But I also hear photographers talking about how their clients feel more confident and are empowered when they get some photographs done. So if we take women who go for a glamour makeover or boudoir sessions, they go there and they're empowered by the process, and they feel stronger and more important, and it makes them feel good about themselves. Or if we go for a family shoot, we're reflecting our relationship and the love we have for each other, and good photographers are able to anchor those relationships and capture those so that it's turned into wall art. And of course, the images into a folio box as well. And, the rest of the images. And that's the psychological effect. Yeah, the effect of empowerment. But there's also research out there that shows that the younger members of our families who are exposed to professional photography on the walls that capture their relationships and in the albums and in the folio boxes, they actually have a higher self-esteem than those who don't. And for me, that was an aha moment. I went, oh my gosh. We were a bit like the cobbler's son. Even though we were in the photography business and the printing business, we had very little photography in our home. We had my wife's wedding album and we did a little bit, but we didn't have that. We didn't have that photography that captured our family as they grew up and gave them that self-esteem and captured all the individual relationships and had that all expressed in wall art and photography, in folio boxes, albums, and everything else. And I went, that's it. Would Freya not have experienced what she experienced if we had captured that? So not only if I had been more focused on the important stuff, but also had that reflected, would that have meant that Freya wouldn't have been put through the heartache she was put through? And that's when I had my aha moment, my why. I said, now I know why I'm here. Now I know why I'm on this planet. I am on this planet to help photographers create a more successful business. Because the more successful they are with business, the more photographs that are taken, the more smiles that happen, the healthier society we create, both in body, psychology-wise, and more self-esteem among the younger people in our society. What's bigger than that? So I started talking about that then a couple of years ago, and I can't remember the exact time. Time goes so quick. It goes way too quick. And I'm not sure whether it's 2 years or 3 years or whatever, but I started talking about this. I started talking about this to photographers at every show I go. I can't but talk about it. I'm a pain in the ass about it because I think it's important that as an industry that we realize the difference we make to society, because that gives us greater self-respect too as to the important job we do. And there's no time more important than now. As we come through this COVID thing, our frontline workers have done a massive job. They put their lives in the line to protect us, to keep us safe, to try and, those of us who got sick, make us healthier. But there's deep scars there still too. But there's also, as well as those deep scars, which are probably psychological scars more than anything, there's also a great understanding, I think, of people as to what's important. And those relationships that are important, whether that's with family, our partner, our children, our pet, our dog, it doesn't matter what it is. And I think we have an important job now to capture that. We've got to capture that so that we help create the products and the experience and the service to make people smile more, to feel empowered, and to have greater self-esteem. So I'm not a photographer. I can't do that. I can't deliver that. But what I do know is I know business. And what I do know is I know marketing. So my why is to guide photographers into creating more successful businesses so all this happens. That's my why. That's why I exist. Because people have come to me and says, Ronan, you understand technology and you understand all this stuff. Would you not go and work in technology or finance? You could make a fortune. That's not what I want. What I want is not that. I don't want material goods. Yes, I want to have a nice home and, an average car and be able to go on a holiday and stuff like that. But outside that, I don't want serious wealth. what I want is to do something to help create a healthier society of mind, body, and spirit. So that what we went through with Freya, and we were lucky with her. There's a lot of people who aren't as lucky as we were, that that nobody has to go through that. And if photography can help even one family not go through that, whatever I do will be worthwhile. Okay. And if you don't believe me about the self-esteem, and I'm sure some of you will look at this, oh yeah, she's your daughter, you told her to do that. I actually didn't. But just when Freya got her image from Kevin, this artwork, this is what she posted on Facebook. And I'm going to read this because I think it's important to read it. Wow, I did not expect to receive my virtual portrait back so fast. 10:14 a.m. this morning, I got an email to say that my virtual portrait was ready to view. Excitement filled me, but I was also very nervous. I'm not used to getting anything like this done, and I wasn't expecting anything amazing due to me having no confidence in myself. So it's still there, isn't it? The moment I opened it was possibly the biggest smile I've ever held on my face. And I'm a smiley person. She is. She's very bubbly. You would never think that she has these challenges underneath because she's the outgoing one and everyone loves her and she's that person, yeah? Wow, I look beautiful. I thought for possibly the first time in my life ever. The experience was out of my comfort zone, but wow. Would I do it over and over again to feel the way I did when I opened my email this morning? The feeling of happiness I felt this morning was worth more than any price. I would pay anything to feel the feeling I did this morning upon receiving my virtual portrait. Thank you, Kevin, for restoring confidence into my life and for the best experience the whole way through my virtual portrait session. If you haven't already, you need to visit. Look at that. And that, I did not ask her to do it. I did not prompt her to do it. But for me, it just reinforced what my research had shown me earlier. And reinforced, you know what? Freya may not have gone through what she went through if I had invested in what's important and reflected all the relationships in our family, in wall art, in folio boxes, and in albums. I don't care what it's in, once people are exposed to it. So what can I do now? So, we developed folio boxes. We have the ultimate folio box in the world in 3XM because we knew that a folio box can help a lot of people to sell more and particularly to sell print. Yeah, because a lot of photographers, who came into the industry were struggling to sell print, and a folio box with the right sales process is a really easy way to do it. I then progressed on to my Ways to Go program, and I developed a business program called Ways to Go, which is absolutely free for anyone to do. It's a series of videos and workbooks, and I make that available free. Not because it's no good, and some people don't attach value to free, and maybe I'm wrong to do that, but it's a way to learn all the base information that you require to produce your 2-page business success plan. So it deep dives into your why, it deep dives into all of that. And you can go on to businesssuccessacademy.io and you can do Ways to Go anytime you want. But then I thought about this and I went, okay, I'm focused on the wrong thing here. If I really want to amplify the success of this, I need to help with marketing. But the problem is with marketing is the messages we've just talked to and the concepts, how do we get that out into consumers and show them the importance of why they need to make these investments? And I went, but some of the problem with this is, one is, we're not Coca-Cola. We're not a brand with a product where we've massive resources to do all that marketing. And I went, okay, but think about what you've done wrong. Think about what you've done in your business. So you brought 3XM into the US with primarily online marketing, with social media marketing. You know that works. You have skill set in your business. And my son has a business outside as well as working in Business Success Academy, where he markets other people's products online. So every 3 months, he spends about $130,000 on online marketing on Facebook on a no-phone, no-fee basis. So I knew he had all the skills to say, the best way to amplify this is to use the power of social media marketing and to help photographers to get their message out there and how to frame that message so that they get more customers, more client gold, that what we call it in BSA, more client gold into their business, who invest more in photography, more smiles, healthier society in mind, body, and spirit. Yeah. So what I did was I said, that's the important stuff. And I've already discussed how do we do it without a brand. So what I did was I've moved to create a group called Business Success Academy, and there's 3 legs to the stool, because to be successful, I believe there's 3 legs to a school. There's knowledge that you gain through training. There's support that you get through mentorship, and there's accountability through community. So we've created Business Success Academy as a community. We have put a small fee on it, but the important thing is you can try it out for free for 2 weeks to see if it's for you. But it's built around the principle of using the most important techniques that work to fill your studio, what we call client gold. So client gold is your ideal client avatar. And the process in finding clients online is similar to panning for gold, and hence the metaphor. You know, we go through a process to this, and I'll talk about this more again next Tuesday, yeah, as to what this process is. But in the meantime, if you would like to join us and see what it's like for 2 weeks and see what we do, it'll cost you nothing, and for the 2 weeks, and after the 2 weeks you can decide to stay with us or not. Just scan that QR code now in your phone. So it doesn't matter whether you're Android or you're Apple, just open the camera on your phone. You don't need a QR reader. Open the camera and just point it at that, and it'll bring you to a landing page into our funnel where you can register, and you can join the group, and you'll be brought into a workplace group where the community is, and all of our content is there, and you can consume it all in the 2 weeks, and you can leave then if you want, or you can choose to stay. That'll be a choice you have. Yeah. So for me, this is the most important thing a photographer can do, is to take control of their own marketing. It's only by taking control of your own marketing that you can turn it into a successful business. Believe me, there's various aspects of our business in the past that we outsourced marketing wise. For me, because I thought it would be better to concentrate on other stuff. And it was the biggest mistake I made. And we have photographers now in Business Success Academy who are panning for client gold every single day, creating client gold leads that are turning into bookings, that are turning into sales. And it is going to change their business. But not only is it going to change their business, it's going to create a healthier society of mind, body, and spirit. And what's more important than that? As far as I'm concerned, nothing. So, I know it was a little bit emotional tonight. It was emotional because I'm passionate about this. I know I yab on about it, and I'm sure people are going, look at that crazy Irish lunatic again. You know, what's he on? But, you know, I really do think that this is important. I really do think that you guys do such an important job as photographers. But too many photographers I talk to don't realize the important work you actually do. And it's part of my mission is making sure that every photographer in the world knows the important job they do. And if I can help them in any way to deliver on that, I will. So that's it for tonight. Next Tuesday, we're going to deep dive into the 2-page business success plan. And we're going to narrow it down, and we're going to deep dive, and hopefully I'll give you the tools to help you with that. If you're up for it, join Ways to Go and deep dive into even some of the subjects. Even if you just watch the why one and see what it's about. I'll deep dive then into the 6D matrix, and we'll actually fill one out for something we're going to do. And I can answer any further questions you have. So that's it for tonight, guys. Let's see if there's any questions there, and if I can help anything that I can answer with. Did they make their flight? I don't know, Jerry. It's just a story, and you know as well as I do that not all stories are true, right? So I just made it up as an analogy. How do you do I don't do one-to-one mentoring, Sam. However, in Business Success Academy, we do as part of, we have two bits to it. So our Inner Hive members do get 2 one-on-one mentoring sessions a year, but we haven't structured our business for one-on-one mentoring. There are 2 sessions in there, and you may choose to have that with one of the other BSA mentors, because we have Brad Bulmer, who runs a studio in the UK, who uses online marketing funnels all the time for client goals. We've Janine McLeod out of Florida, who does the same. And then we have Jonathan, who is an expert when it comes to finding traffic on Facebook. I derailed last night into a barrel of Guinness. I'm fat but happy. I know the feelings, Sam, and don't worry. If I have the opportunity to share a bottle or a barrel of Guinness with you someday, I would love to. Great talk, Ronan. Thank you, Jerry. Marnie, thank you so much, Ronan. This is helpful stuff. You're inspiring us also. Thank you, Marnie. I look forward to having you back in the think tank, Marnie, because you are also inspiring. I love the way you connect with your local community with your marketing. And hopefully we might see you in BSA at some stage. Jill says, thank you, Ron. I appreciate your transparency. So helpful. Absolutely, Jill. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I always do. I try and not talk a whole load of, I won't finish that word. I used a little bit earlier, my original of the thing. But I try and say it as I see it. Some people don't like that, but and I don't hold anything back. You know, I give as much as people are willing to take in. So I assure you of that. And Marnie says, anytime. Great. Okay, guys, listen, thank you so much for joining me. Stay safe, stay healthy. Hopefully I'll see you next Tuesday. And then next Thursday, we have Ray Lowe joining us. So he'll be talking about generational portraiture. So we every Tuesday, every Thursday, we'll be here in the think tank. So stay safe, stay healthy. Have a very good morning, evening, or afternoon, depending where you are in the world. Bye for now.